Genesis 6, verse 2. In the prior verse, we saw how mankind is increasing and growing upon the earth, and then we're going to start to see a slight shift in the direction of a potential negative outcome here. Idontes de huioi tu theou, tas thugateros ton anthropon, hati kalai esen, elaban heautois gunaikos, apa pason, hon exelexanto. So it's a bit lengthy, but let's get into some of the details. And we start with the idontes here, and that is a spelling change from horao becomes id. This is a nominative singular masculine aorist active participle. And so this is actually going to frame, it's adverbial, it's framing this future verb. So we'll get to that. And then we have a de here. So that's saying, okay, there's something different going on in the narrative. You could translate this but if you want. So but the sons of God, something like seeing or after seeing. So after they saw, and what did they see? Tas thugateros. And we saw that in the prior video. Thugater means daughter. So they saw the daughters of men. That also goes back to 6:1 because the mankind is growing upon the earth. And so they saw them that kalai asen, that they were kalos, but this is the nominative plural feminine form, which is matching up with the thugateros here. So they saw that they looked good. They were beautiful. They were pleasing. So having done that, so again, this is an adverbial participle modifying this next verb, elaban. This is from lambano, third plural ending there. So they took to themselves, that is the sons of God, gunaikos there. In this case, it would be wives. Apopason, it's a little bit tricky to translate, but something like from all of them or from among them, and that is what we see in the Hebrew. And which ones did they take hone? That is referring back to the wives. It's the relative pronoun here. Exelexanto, and this is a third plural aorist middle indicative. You can see the S implicitly under the C there with the anto ending, and that is the word for to choose. So seeing that they were beautiful, they took wives for themselves from all of them whom they chose. Now, I want to make a few comments about this. First off, this idontes, which is from horao, plus the use of kalos here, although it's feminine in this form, that is probably, in my opinion, a callback to Genesis 3:6, where Eve saw, notice it's also an aorist form of horao, you got the same id there, that the tree was good. It's also kalos. And so when she saw with her eyes, these eyes that are going to be opened, if you will, she saw that the tree was good, she ends up eating the fruit, which violated the commandment of God due to the deception of the serpent. So we see, in a sense, a repetition of the same pattern. Seeing with the eyes that something was good, that it pleases the senses, is going to lead to a negative outcome. Moreover, and this is where you start to get to some interesting issues in the history of interpretation here, and we'll play this out in due course, this idea of the sons of God and the daughters of men has generated a significant amount of debate, really all the way back to the church fathers, because it's going to frame where we're going to go with the rest of the narrative in the subsequent verses. And so there's a couple of different options. One have argued, or many argue, that the sons of God actually refers back to the line of Seth, the promised line of Seth, the seed of blessing, if you will, who call upon the name of the Lord and therefore become, in a sense, the sons of God. And that's a positive sense here, in which case the daughters of men would be more a negative sense, if you will, a contrastive sense. They're, in a sense, marrying outside the promised line. That's one theory that is very common in the history of interpretation. The other one is that actually sons of God here is referring to angels. You may be wondering, what's that about? And they saw the daughters of men. That's going to lead to the next verse, actually the next few verses, where we have the introduction of these giant Nephilim and so forth. So we're going to have to hold that thought, but I'll just mention it now as one of the two options on the table, that these sons of God, and we'll see that sometimes being used like in the Psalter and so forth as a description of angelic beings. And so that is also a prominent interpretive option in the history, both Jewish and Christian, the history of interpretation of this passage. I'll also lastly mention that taking for themselves wives is perhaps an echo of Genesis 4:19 and what Lamech did. It's almost Lamech did. And it wasn't a good thing when he did it, when he took multiple wives. And so a lot of interesting stuff going on in Genesis 6:2, but the plot's going to thicken in the subsequent verses. And so stay tuned for that.